I'm Andrene.
And I'm Joel.
And this is Rewind Rewatch, a 90s movie podcast. Welcome back to Rewind Rewatch. We are siblings born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, who are rewatching 90s films and discussing how well they have aged. In each episode, we will talk about the themes, plot points, quotes, and then at the end of the episode, we will give the movie a rewind rating between 1 and 5 based on how likely it is for us to rewatch the film again. This week, we are covering Arlington Road from 1999. This is an R-rated film, 2-hour runtime, and if you do want to catch this is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. This was requested by our one and only father.
Shout out to father.
Out of Georgia. And he was the sole person requesting this movie this week.
Oh, only one requester today.
One lucky duck.
All right.
This week. Before I talk about the director and who's in it and all that, what is your experience with this film?
Well, it's no surprise that our dad requested this because I feel like he's the one that introduced us to this movie, like probably when we were in high school.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I remember him saying like, "Oh, this movie's crazy," and I remember you really got into it as well.
Oh yeah.
And I watched it a few times, but I was probably 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've seen it since like the early 2000s, so it's been a while.
Oh, okay. So I would love to know some of your thoughts as we discuss this film. This was directed by Mark Pellington, and he also directed The Mothman Prophecies that came out in 2002. That was the only one that I saw that sounded familiar to me based on the IMDb that I read up on this director. It's starring Jeff Bridges, who plays the character Michael Faraday. We already saw Jeff Bridges on the pod in The Big Lebowski.
The dude abides.
He does abide. The second, it's two other co-stars, but the second one I want to talk about is Oliver Lang is the character, and he is played by Tom Robbins. And we also saw him when we covered the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, Oliver Lang allegedly.
Yes, Oliver Lang / William Fenimore. And then lastly, we have Joan Cusack, who plays Cheryl Lang, Oliver's wife. And we also covered her when we did In and Out.
That's right.
So
she was the one that got left at the altar.
Yeah. So it's been 3 for 3 for the major characters in this film. And then I just want to bring up, we have Michael Faraday's girlfriend, Brooke, is played by Hope Davis, who was on this show called Your Honor. Have you watched this?
I have, and I was like looking at her throughout the movie. I'm like, this woman looks mad familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on what I had seen her in. But Your Honor, that makes sense.
Yeah, that show is wild. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. I think it's streaming on Netflix. It was originally a Showtime show, but I think Netflix might have it. And then also we have Whit Carver, who plays an FBI agent.
It's a black guy.
Yeah, he's played by Robert Gossett. He was in Major Crimes. He was on General Hospital, as well as the show The Closer. So he's been on quite a few things. So before we get into the movie, in one sentence, how would you summarize Arlington Road?
So Arlington Road is about a man who lives in the DC suburbs and suspects that there's something strange about his neighbors.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to sum it up, because pretty much right away, like pretty early on in the movie, he doesn't really trust these neighbors. So the first time we see...
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say right away. I would say that he gets tipped off to a few things. And the context here is, of course, number one, he had a wife that died as an FBI agent off of a bad tip. They didn't go through protocol properly. She ended up getting killed in the middle of her job. So he already has like a lot of trauma that has been unresolved from like the way that the FBI handled that situation after his wife died. In addition to that, he teaches at GW, so like a American history course where he focuses a lot on like American terrorism from Americans. So I feel like all of that context adds to his paranoia of like something weird is going on here.
Right. So the very first time we see Michael Faraday, the movie opens up to seeing this young boy walking down the street. And this is a scene that I recall from the first time I watched this movie, because I remember just being like, this little boy is bleeding in the middle of the road. He's walking down like clearly like a neighborhood where it's just houses. They live in Reston. And he's walking down the street. There's blood dripping. He's holding his arm. And Michael's character is driving his car. He sees the kid. He pulls over. And the kid's hand looks like it's been like partially blown up. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's gross looking. And he rushes the kid to the emergency room, has no idea who this kid is. And we find out in the hospital, as the kid's parents show up, that it's actually his neighbors from across the street who he had never met before. And he feels terrible because he's like, this family's been living here and I didn't know their name. I didn't know who they were. I never even said hi to them. For 2 months, they've been living here. So he feels really bad about it. And it turns out that the little boy had been playing with fireworks and he injured himself. And the little boy is the same age as Michael's son. So the little boy's name is Brady and Michael's son's name is Grant. And they're both 10 years old. Now, I want to pause here and say, this is a movie that is so crazy. If you have not seen this movie before, I think this is one of the ones where you might want to pause and watch it first because we're going to spoil everything.
And yeah, it's a lot of twists and turns.
A lot.
And so like, yeah, if you listen to this episode and then go watch the movie, it's not really going to do the movie justice because you're already going to know all the turns and twists. But yeah, with that said, like there's plenty of things that I'm ready to spoil.
Yes, that's why I said that.
So now is a good time to pause. Having said that, it becomes clear by the end of the film that Michael's basically been getting set up the whole time. They laid this trap out and he just ran right into it. So I wonder, since they were basically targeting Michael, did they injure the son themselves?
Joel, this was the question I had written down to ask you. Because I'm watching this and I'm like, well, wait a second. Did they really essentially burn part of their child's hand? Or, I mean, it's pretty badly mangled. And it's very obvious this is not
he
it.
had to go to the emergency room and like get bandaged up. Like his hand is mangled when we see him. And he's not even crying. Like he's just walking down an empty road.
It's like he was drugged almost.
And his arm is just dripping blood.
He doesn't scream until Michael picks him up. And then he starts screaming, kid, who are you? He doesn't answer any questions.
And it's like...
At 10 years old, you'd be able to say who you are or I want my mom or something.
Yeah, I assume the kid's in shock. But it's also like, where did he come from and where is he going for him to just be happening to walk down the street when Michael's the only car driving down the road?
Yeah.
And none of his parents even come running after him or like... it's a little weird. So
to answer your question, I think the answer might be yes.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Lang family has not only this son, Brady, but they also have 2 daughters. And it seems to me that the kids may not necessarily know that their parents are terrorists, but they have at least been trained to be very cagey.
Yes.
Because there's a scene when Brooke tries to go over their house Oh, no. When Michael goes over to the house because he wants to snoop into the office, and the daughters are looking at him like they don't know who he is. And it's like, bro, I had dinner here last night. Like, y'all know me. Like,
he said, you're a stranger. He was
hang out with your parents all the time.
Right. And then even when he says he locked himself out of the house, he used to call a locksmith. And after he says that, a little girl eventually lets him in, but she keeps like turning around and looking at him, trying to see what he's doing, like very suspicious. And then eventually the mom shows.
Well, he's also lying. So.
Yes, but again, at that age, you wouldn't be that suspicious of somebody who was in your house with your parents last night. So that was kind of like strange. And then when the mom shows up, the little girl says, "Here's your briefcase." She's like, "Oh, and your cell phone." And he's like, "Oh yeah, my cell phone died." And it's like, the little girl didn't buy any of his crap.
No.
And she's young. So I definitely thought that too. Like, these kids have kind of been trained to look out for possible funny activity.
Well, the other thing is that the Langs are a part of this community of terrorists. They're not working by themselves. They're obviously like connected to some network.
Oh, yeah.
And presumably they travel around the country producing these acts of terror. And so even towards the end of the film, we see them talking about like where they're going to end up next. And his wife's like, I hope it's somewhere nice and safe, which is ironic. But you see that their house has a for sale sign. And so it's like these kids are presumably being bounced around the country with their parents and are probably being fed some sort of propaganda about what that means. And so, yeah, there is no reason for them to really trust anyone outside of their parents if they're being trained not to. And to Brady, I mean, he's probably only so friendly with Grant because he's been told that's what he needs to do.
Exactly. Even there's a scene where Grant and Brady are having a sleepover at Michael's house, and they have like this tent with a keep out posted on it. And so Michael is a little bit nervous, and he's like, okay, guys, that's fine, but like, you promised no fireworks, right? And then the son, the neighbor child says to him, well, that's classified information, Mr. Faraday. And it's like, you're 10. Like, who talks like that at 10 years old? That kind of threw me.
That's funny, but also, like, actually don't use fireworks. Like, please don't blow my son's hand off. Because you obviously don't know how to handle fireworks because you almost killed yourself. So, please.
So, you mentioned that Michael's wife was part of the FBI and she died, during the course of her work. And in the meantime, Michael is now dating Brooke. And we learned that Brooke was one of his graduate students.
His TA.
Yeah, from one of his classes. And now they're together. And we get this feeling that his son doesn't really like Brooke now that it's starting to seem like it's serious. Because she spends the night and the son says to Michael, like, is she going to be here every night? And he's like, well, no, I asked her to sleep over last night, but I thought you liked Brooke. And he's like, I liked her better before. Because in his mind, it's like, is she...
I thought y'all was friends.
Right,
Not that she was going to try to replace my mom. And also, I'm not over the fact that my mom died. Grant is seeing a counselor.
Yes.
He's reclusive. He doesn't have many friends. And so he's dealing with the death of his mother very hard. And this relationship with this boy that lives across the street has basically like revived Grant. He is now having fun again. He's hanging out. They join this kind of this Boy Scouts type of club together. Which
that club,
the Discoverer Troops.
Oh boy.
So like all of this is going on, and then it's like, yo, this is the first moment that I'm actually having some joy in my life. And this is the exact same moment where dad starts to become suspicious of the Lang family. And of course, Oliver is like one of the troop masters or something. So it's like, I don't trust this guy. He's obviously keeping secrets. And I really don't want him hanging around my kid. But I don't want to tell my kid he can't go over there because this is the only thing in his life that's brought him joy since his mother died. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Brooke is offering absolutely no help to him. time and time again,
we gotta talk about Brooke.
Comes to Brooke and is like, yo, I found out this thing. This guy is not being honest to us. Oh, Michael, won't you just get over yourself? I don't care.
You served time in a juvenile program. Pipe bomb as a kid. Why would you go to these lengths to hide that part of your history, huh? If it wasn't an isolated event, if you thought you might try it again someday.
It didn't even go off. He was a kid.
Brooke, Brady practically killed himself with a bunch of fireworks. What, in March? Come on. Where do you think that comes from? Where does Brady get an idea like that?
What are you saying? Are you listening to yourself?
Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me?
Your neighbor.
Yes.
Is a terrorist.
Brooke.
Yeah, has been blowing up buildings.
Brooke, there's something going on over there.
And my thing is, the thing that I was waiting for him to bring up, it's one thing if your neighbor's weird or your neighbor's saying one thing, but like, this seems like a lie. But to me, the big flashing red light is the fact that I'm a single father and I have a son. And so, like, if I don't trust this man, I don't want my kid hanging out with him.
Absolutely.
Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, yeah, let's not go over there for dinner anymore. But it's another thing completely when it's like, this kid is taking my son on, like, sleepaway trips.
Yeah, for like a week or whatever.
Yeah, like, that I think is where he should have drawn the
Well,
line.
so to give some context of what's going on here, Michael is talking to Oliver that they have like a cookout, barbecue, whatever, at the Lang's house, and they're having
it's a welcome home Brady barbecue.
Oh yeah,
after he gets out the hospital.
after his parents burn his hand. Blow up part of his hand.
He got back from the hospital. Welcome home, Brady.
And if you notice, like, later on, when we figure out who the rest of the terrorist community is, like, all these terrorists are at that house in the party. Yeah. And
that's all his friends.
Yeah. And so they end up staying later than everybody else. They live across the street, and they're talking and having a conversation. And Oliver brings up the fact that they came from St. Louis. He's never lived back east. His kids have never seen, like, the ocean, I believe he says. And he's like, he's like an architect. He does all these buildings. And he's building a shopping mall in Reston is why he's there.
Designing an addition to the Reston Mall.
So it's like, okay, cool. And they're talking. And the next day, Michael gets mail in his mailbox that apparently is meant for the Langs, meant for Oliver. But it's from an alumni group from University of Pennsylvania. And so now Michael starts thinking, he says he's never lived back east. He's coming from St. Louis. And I think he grew up in Kansas.
He went to Kansas State.
Yeah. So it's like, this doesn't make any sense. So the first time he sees it, he goes over there and asks him about it. And he's like, oh, yeah, they mix us up all the time. You know, yeah, I don't know, different guy. It's not me. He's like, oh, graduated the same year as you? Yep, it's not me. The second time he gets in the mail, now he's starting to get suspicious because he's like, I don't know about this. So initially he goes to Whit, who was his wife's former FBI partner. And Whit's like, yeah, I'm not about to look up your neighbor just because you have a hunch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lose my job over that. He ends up going to...
He didn't want to be Arnold from True Lies.
No, he definitely didn't want to do that. So Michael ends up going to the GW library and he does like some research and he finds, I think it was a yearbook from...
He orders the yearbook.
Oh, that's right. He goes to his house.
He looks the guy up. How does he find him?
But he called the college to be like, oh, I'm calling from the EEOC and I'm calling about, Oliver Lang, who graduated from Kansas State. And they basically were like, we don't have that person on our records. They never came to this school.
Yeah, there's never been anyone with that name.
So he already is like, yeah, I don't trust it. Then he gets the yearbook, looks it up, and he's looking at, these pictures, and he's able to find a picture of Oliver Lang. And in the yearbook, the name in the yearbook is not Oliver Lang. It is that other name that we gave, William Fenimore. So now he's thinking like, well, who was William Fenimore? So now you start digging a little bit deeper. And it turns out that William Fenimore, when he was younger, at the age of 16, I believe, he had built this pipe bomb and he set to blow up this agency who had been cheating his father's farm. And so now Michael's thinking, okay, bomb, violent tendencies, name change, didn't tell me where he was from.
Lied about his
Like,
background.
all this is just very suspicious.
And he told me that he was working on building an addition to the mall. But then when he went to the guy's house, he saw blueprints on his counter that did not look like a mall at all.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like...
Like office buildings, he said.
He's like, yo, like, why would he lie about this?
Right.
And she's like, oh, I don't know, Michael. It's not a big deal.
She's like, people lie. I mean, he was 16 and the bomb didn't even go off. I'm like, that's the excuse? The bomb didn't go off?
At the end of the day, it's like, this man is hanging around my son. Like, that's the trump card. And I was waiting for him to pull it out, and he just never said that. And I'm like, yo, there's no way she can argue. And then I think the other problem with Brooke was that she knew that Michael had not ever really fully resolved the death of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was still feeling, I don't know if jealous is the right word, but like definitely like her ability to get as close to him was probably going to be stunted by the fact that he was still holding on to a piece of his wife. Even when he goes to the Lang's house and they're having dinner and he's having this conversation with the wife about morals, and she's talking to him about like, oh, well, where did you learn your morals from? And he's like, honestly, I will probably say my ex-wife. So it's like, this woman represents a lot to him.
He says wife, not even ex.
Oh, my
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that Brooke is feeling like this guy's not over his wife. This guy's still holding on to things, and now he's just pulling on strings that aren't really there.
So on the one hand, is he over his wife? Absolutely not. That's very clear that he's not. And he even says that he wishes someone in the government had just said they were sorry and that they made a mistake.
Yep.
Like no one ever really apologized for her death, and he definitely feels slighted by that. However, what really bothered me about Brooke was after he gives her all this evidence that like something is shady about this guy, she's like, so what, Michael? He's just, being a good father and taking his daughter to ballet and taking his son to camping trips and then doing bombs, blowing up buildings. And it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah,
that's how terrorists act.
Exactly. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yes.
I can't believe someone who takes their daughters to ballet is also building bombs. It can't be the same guy.
I was like, what? So she was getting under my skin.
Also, bruh, she was his TA, which means she has a graduate degree in American history.
Mm-hmm.
How could she possibly be this naive?
Well, remember, she said, what the Bill of Rights? Remember? She was like, Michael, what about the Bill of Rights? What about people's rights? And it's like, what are you even talking about? So then Brooke bothers me even more because she's shopping in the mall.
Brooke, dog.
She's shopping in the mall, and she sees Oliver pulls up in this white van. And
in the parking garage.
Yeah.
Though. So like
it's like in the cut.
It's like the underground parking garage.
The covered parking garage. Pulls up in this white van, and then she's getting ready to say hi, but a car speeds by, and so her voice is lost. He doesn't hear her. Another woman pulls up in a vehicle, a small car, gets out with a manila envelope, gives Oliver the envelope. They exchange car keys. He leaves with a briefcase and an envelope in the car, and the other lady leaves in the van, and they pull off. And so now she's thinking like, that's kind of weird, because it is.
Yep.
And then she decides she's going to tail him.
And also, this is after she cussed out her boyfriend for saying that there was something weird about this guy. Mm-hmm. And then left and basically said, like, I don't feel comfortable staying here.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they're already, like, in the middle of this argument over this guy.
Yeah.
And then she sees this guy acting weird, and she's like, oh, shit. Maybe Michael was right.
Right. So now she's
like, well, let me do a little recon. Let me do a little recon and see if maybe I can. Oh, man. I don't understand why people do these things. It's like
Scooby-Dooing.
Like, yeah, you're Scooby-Dooing, but it's also like, bro, like, if this guy is as dangerous as Michael thinks he is, what makes you think that you're just going to uncover the plot?
And how many eyes are actually on him right now? And on you? So then she follows him, and it turns out that there's like this Liberty like delivery company. There's multiple vans there, and she actually pulls into the parking lot, which I'm like, girl, pulls in, parks her car, But her back is to him, so hopefully he doesn't know that she's there.
Looking through the rearview mirror. Looking through the rearview mirror. He'll never see me here.
They can't see my plates from over here.
They can't see my face. I never turned around.
So she's sitting there watching, and you see Oliver gets out of the car. He has like these long metal like cases. He's talking to someone else, and the guy he's talking to is one of the troop leaders, and they're exchanging these different metal boxes. So now she's like, "What is going on?" So she gets flustered, and then she like peels out of the parking lot. But of course, one of the guys sees her and her plates. So now this is where I'm thinking, okay, if I'm terrified, this is what I see. I'm just going to drive straight to Michael's office. Like, that's what I would do. But she doesn't do that. Instead, she drives to a local, like, mall plaza, like a shopping plaza. And there are, again, this is, back in the 90s. 1999. So she has no cell phone. She goes and gets a phone booth. And she goes in. And she calls Michael's house. Now, Michael is at school right now. So I'm thinking, are you going to leave a voicemail? You're going to leave a voicemail? And she's like, Michael, I just saw some crazy things. I saw Oliver and I tailed him and I see these long metal containers and like, it doesn't look right. And I'm kind of scared, like, call me back. And it's like, what? So as she's doing all of this, and then she turns, and like, to be fair, like, this is definitely like, this probably wouldn't happen this fast because how does the wife get there this quickly? But it's fine. She turns around, and who do we see? We see Oliver Lang's wife.
Well, they're all talking, too. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
All these terrorists are in communication. So it wouldn't have been completely out of the blue for her to show up.
We also don't know how far away she was from her house, too. So that's fair enough. So you see Cheryl Lang is standing there, played by Joan Cusack. And I got to say, I feel like Joan typically plays roles where she's like, the cute, like unassuming, kind of, kind-hearted type of
like Drew Barrymore
woman.
types.
Yeah, very kind. But in this film, it's like the fact that she has this very like kind demeanor, but then like she looks at her and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?"
Brooke, I knew it's you. Hi. What are you doing here?
Just shopping. What are you doing here?
Shopping.
Great.
Yeah.
And then she just smiles at her, but then as she's smiling, all of a sudden her like smile starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it just like kind of stops. And then that's the last time we see Brooke.
That's the last time we see Brooke. The next thing we see is that she had a strange car accident on the news. And of course, the voicemail that she left on Michael's house has since been deleted.
I love that. The camera work was great because he comes in the house and you see the 0 on the voicemail. He turns on the TV, he sees the license plate, and then he drives down like a bat out of hell. And when he gets there, I'm thinking, these cops are terrible because he just got through the police tape and he got past the news vans and gets right in front of her car. I'm like, how did he get down here? Nobody stopped this man?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
He's the main character.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
So now he knows that Brooke has died and he is, beside himself.
Well, I want to talk about the van because that was another big question mark for me. It's like, when all right. So first of all, she sees that they've exchanged cars and she follows him to this van rental place. Number one, why are you following this man?
Yeah.
Like, I saw something weird in the parking garage. That's enough.
I need to get proof.
That's enough.
You need to get proof.
I'm going to go home and be like, babe, you were right. Mm-hmm. I saw something weird. I don't trust him either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go try to uncover the plot.
No.
I'm not Dick Tracy out here, dog.
No.
I'm going back home. I'm making up with my boyfriend, and I'm telling him, you're validated because I just saw something crazy. That's number one. But beyond that, she tries to leave the voicemail to warn him about what she's seen. She knows about the van, blah, 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 blah. Michael never gets the voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
But Michael also when he starts to spin out towards the end of the movie, he clocks the security van and decides to follow it.
The Liberty van, yeah.
Why would he clock that van if he didn't know?
The Liberty van...
He never got the voicemail.
Oh, here's why. So after Brooke dies and he ends up when was it? They end up snatching his son from the Discoverer Troops thing. Because at this point, I think he realizes that Whit had left a voicemail on his phone and he missed the message, right? And then we see that what was I going to say? Okay, so he calls the camp to say, I am, Brady's father. I'm coming to pick him up. Fine. He drives all the way out there. When he gets there, Brady is gone. And they're like, yeah, his pops came and got him. And it's like, I'm his pops. I didn't come and get him.
He's like, I called. He's like, yeah, you called
twice.
He's like, what? He's like, yeah, he left with Grant. Mm-hmm. He left with no, his son is Grant. He left with Brady.
Okay, right.
So then he's like, oh, so obviously my neighbor grabbed my son and pretended to be me. Okay.
And this part is what's actually the most chilling to me, because when he goes back home, you see all these cars lined up, you hear music playing, and the Langs are throwing this huge party. And they're playing, do a little dance, make a little left, get down tonight. Which is like such a happy song, but it was just so dark because it's like, you just snatched my son. But on the street as he's walking in, you can see the Liberty vans posted outside the house. Uh-huh. So I'm thinking like he's drawing the connection like, well, this van was posted outside of his house. And now that I see it, that's when he starts thinking like somehow it's connected. He knows they're terrorists now because Oliver even admits to him at the party, like, just leave it alone, basically, and your son will be safe. Your son is fine. He's with my son. Like, just don't do anything.
Because at first he tries to lie. Then the same way, it's so crazy because the way that Michael is trying to, like, do all this research and figure out Oliver, what he doesn't know is that Oliver's watching him and doing this exact same thing.
Yep.
So every time, like, you see him, like, looking up old newspaper articles at work, and then who just happens to show up at GW? Oliver. Oh, hey, I was in the area. Do you want to go out for a drink?
That was so scary.
And he's like, nah, dog, I'm good. Then when he orders the Kansas State yearbook and he's looking through it in his backyard, Oliver just shows up and he's like, oh, doing some research, Michael?
Yep.
And that's when he gives the whole sob story about, I was only 16. You ever do anything wrong when you were 16? So he goes from, I'm just a nice guy, to, all right, you caught me. I did some things and I changed my name, but I regret it. And that's why I changed my name.
I mean, his dad had just died.
Yeah.
So he's
I changed my name because I didn't want my future to be tainted by my past.
He didn't want his kids to know what he did. That's what he kept saying.
Yeah.
He didn't want his kids to know.
Then, after all that, they kill his girlfriend. They kidnap his son. Mm-hmm. So now, when he sees Oliver, he's not even hiding it anymore.
Cats out of the bag.
Now he's like, all right, you continue to pry. Your girlfriend continued to pry. We got her out of here. Mm-hmm. We're holding your son. Mm-hmm. So now I'm threatening you.
But also, he says to him, Brooke was trying to get us off schedule. And so that's why we had to do. Basically, he said, just go home. He said, just mind your business.
He's like, it'll all be over in the next couple of days.
Right, it'll be over soon. You'll get your son back, and like we'll be out of here. It's fine. So my question to you is, assuming Michael didn't do anything, do you think he ever would have saw his son again?
Well, that's a good question because the whole plot is based on them knowing that he's going to do something anyway. Mm-hmm. So they basically tell him not to do it and then goad him to do it anyway. And that's what wraps him. If he had actually just sat at home and said, like, I'm just not going to do anything here. They actually would need a plan B.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I would suspect they would have one. Because, I mean, I can't imagine a terrorist just, like, putting all their eggs in one basket.
So they're probably doing the same thing with somebody else in a different neighborhood.
Maybe. And
then it's just like whoever bites is going to be the one.
Because what ends up really solidifying what's going on with Oliver is when we hear earlier on in class, Michael is telling his students about this event that happened 14 months earlier in St. Louis. And in St. Louis, there had been this huge domestic terrorist plot, and it had ruined like this, huge building. There was like a nursery there for like, I think, people who worked there and their kids, and a bunch of people died. And it turns out that they blamed it all on this man named Scobie. And everybody said, like, this was the sole person who did the bombing. They captured him and all that. And in the class, Michael is kind of like asking his students, like, he doesn't outright
he's
say.
He's like, are you buying this?
Yeah, he's outright say it's not just him, but he's like, do you really think that one person planned this entire attack? And one of the guys is like, Professor, I mean, they found the guy, they found him guilty, like, why not? And he said, okay, well, let me ask you this. After the attack happened, how did you feel? It's like, oh, I was scared, I was terrified, I didn't know what was going to be next, who did it. But then after they caught Scobie, how did you feel? And it's like, I felt better. They caught the bad guy. You could sleep again. He said, exactly. So he goes out and seeks out Scobie's father. And that's when, the dad's kind of like, there's no way my son did this, because at the end of the day, my son loved children. He never would have bombed a place where he knew
had a nursery
that kids were there. And he says, just so you know, my son was involved in the Discoverer troops. And he's like, wait, what? And he pulls out a photo. And in the photo, we can see there's like at least 2 or 3 other guys in the photo who we know are associated with Lang.
Because they were at his house party.
Mm-hmm. So that's how he was like...
And it's the same organization that his son has since been involved with. So it's not just like...
It's very obvious.
It's not just like, oh, Oliver Lang's a terrorist. It's also like, my son is in danger.
Exactly.
And that's when he
gets
out of Dodge
and
goes straight to the camp to try to pick his son up.
And his son is gone. And that's when, like, in that moment when his son is not there, you can't help but just be like, oh, this is a wrap. Like, I just felt like... It just makes you feel sick, because he didn't even want to send his son. And honestly, had it not been for Brooke, his son would never have been on that trip.
All right, so let me break this down even a little bit more, because there's something else that I noticed watching. There's a lot of things I noticed watching this movie that I did not notice 20 years ago. But one of the things that really jumped out at me was the story he tells about his wife and how she died.
Mm-hmm.
And so the short version is, his wife worked for the feds. They had gotten all these flags about this guy who was basically like collecting all these guns. All these people that he was associated with were buying guns, and they all somehow were ending up at this guy's house. So the feds show up to basically do a raid and catch this guy with all these guns, because they're like, he might be a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
They do not properly identify themselves. It turns into a 2-hour firefight. And come to find out, the guy wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't breaking the law. The reason he had all these guns is because he was an arms dealer who had acquired all the guns legally.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of them not using the information correctly, his wife got killed. And what he says to his kids are, the flags, his kids meaning his students, the flags went up and the flags were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that whole situation and him bringing his class to the scene of the crime where his wife got killed and having this whole conversation about like flags being wrong, I think he then starts to question himself and is like, what if my flags are wrong? Because I have all these flags about my neighbor, but actually this is the only thing that's put a smile on my son's face since his mother died. And that's when he decides to let him go on the camping trip, is after he takes his students to talk about his wife.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think he was now questioning like, yo, what if my flags are wrong? And it ends up that they were not.
Oh, dicey. Okay, so after his son gets snatched and basically Oliver's like, just stay in your lane, it'll all be good. This is when he's at home, and like you said, he ends up didn't he go to get a rental car in the middle of the night? He woke up like mad early. Or no, he saw Scobie before this. I don't know. But eventually he ended up following this Liberty truck.
That's why he woke up. He woke up in the middle of the night to drive up there because he wanted to leave without his neighbors seeing him.
That's what it was. Okay. So he ends up following this Liberty truck, and Liberty Bibbity, and he ends up seeing his son in the back. Like, it has 2 windows in the back, and you see his son, like, pop up and look. And then you see that troop leader who was in the photo at Scobie's house.
The same creepy guy.
At Scobie's house, and he's like, oh, no. So now he's trying to follow them because he knows, like, from what he's figuring out, these people are trying to bomb something. And he's thinking that they want to bomb with my son in the car. Yeah. Like, they're going to kill my son and kill all these people. And, like, my life's going to be over, basically. And as he's tailing them, he basically gets hit by another vehicle.
He gets, like, T-boned.
Yeah.
So, like, he's, like, following them through this alleyway. And then as they're driving and he's trying to catch them, another car just shows up out of nowhere and rams into his car.
Your man, Oliver.
And it's Oliver who gets out the car, grabs Michael out the car.
Oh, my God.
And they get into a whole fist fight inside this abandoned warehouse while his car is still sitting outside.
Yeah. So good. So good. So they have this whole fight, and basically, this is when Oliver says to him, like, I'm doing this for you. Like, for us. Like, for all the Americans out there.
Yeah, I'm getting revenge for your wife, bro. The government never apologized. You should be as angry as I am. The same way they screwed my family, then they screwed your family.
Exactly. But Michael's like, but you're not hurting the government. You're hurting people, women, children. He's like, it's all the same. Like, it's war, and in war, children die, he says.
Yeah, he said these are casualties.
Like, it has to happen.
These are casualties of war.
It has to happen. And I think also by saying, like, they have to pay, they all have to pay, it was telling Michael as well as the audience they're going to bomb the FBI building. Because it was very, very clear that Michael still had this grudge against the FBI. And once he realizes that's the target, now he's like, I gotta call Whit and warn him, and I gotta get there and somehow stop them. And so now he is on his cell phone, he's driving like a maniac through the streets, he calls Whit, and now, poor Whit, because throughout the film, Michael has called Whit multiple times, look into my neighbor, I don't know what's going on with him. Whit eventually does look him up, and he's like, when the St. Louis bombing happened, we looked into anybody that had anything to do with bombs. And we saw that when he was 16, he tried to do this pipe bomb thing and never exploded. He has no record, completely clean outside of that thing. And he's like, anybody associated with him came up clean as well. So he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. If you have anything, let me know. But at this point, Michael knows that they have ears and eyes on him. So he's like, I have nothing else with, and leaves it at that.
Yeah, because Oliver basically told him, like, yo, if you talk to the feds again, like, you're not going to see your son, bro. Mm-hmm. So this is when he finally has an opportunity to say something to Whit. And he's like, I'm not going to do it because my son's at danger. So he's just like, yeah, nah, I was wrong. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, dog. Like, if you're wrong, then you're wrong. I'm going to go back to work.
Right. So fast forward now towards the end. He calls Whit for the final time. And he says, look, there's a Liberty van coming to the FBI to make some kind of delivery. There's a bomb in the van. Get everybody out of the building. So now Whit is kind of just like, what do I do? Because this guy's been freaking out about his neighbor this entire time. He's been wrong. And then last time
I'm actually going to evacuate this building on a hunch from this guy who's spinning out.
So he ends up calling the security gate, and he ends up going down there himself to kind of see what's going on. So by the time Michael arrives at the security gate, we're seeing the Liberty van has just been cleared through security, and it's driving down into, like, I guess, the lower parking lot of the FBI building. And so now he pulls up, and there's 2 security guards pulling out their guns because it's like, you're not an authorized vehicle. What are you doing back here? Then Michael's like, there's a bomb. And, like, this scene, Jeff Bridges was acting his butt off because, like, the tension, the fear, the paranoia, it was also palpable. Like, he's sweating bullets. He has a crazed look in his eyes. Like, he's like, there's a bomb in the car. And they're like, bro, what are you talking about? That vehicle's cleared to be here. It's our afternoon delivery. And he's like, no, there's a bomb. Whit, there's a bomb. And so they would have been shot this man. But Whit's like, hold your fire. I know this man. Like, Michael, what are you talking about? So at this point, Michael has like a split second to decide to gun it before, I guess, like the barrier comes up and he can't drive in. So he just like guns it, jumps into the building, and goes down into the parking lot.
Drives right over the spikes as well. Completely blows out his tires.
Doesn't matter. His son's in there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but then it's also like, if there actually is a bomb in the van, you're not going to be able to stop it.
Yeah, we're all just going to blow up, I guess. So he drives into the building like a crazed maniac at this point. And once they get down there, security now is like rushing him. And they all have guns pointed, like, what are you doing? And he's like, there's a bomb, my son. And so eventually they go over and pull the driver of the van out. And lo and behold, it is not the driver that we know, that we saw earlier. It's a completely different guy. And the guy's looking around like, what are you guys?
It's an actual security guy.
He's like, what's happening? Open the van. He gets to the front because Whit says, don't shoot him. They open the van and there's nothing back there. Yeah. There's no one back there. His son is not in this van. And then they cut to, we see his son is now getting out of a different Liberty van, and he's meeting up with the Langs and their children.
To go to a museum.
They're having, a field trip.
Yeah.
Time of his life. And so now they're in there, and Whit says to him, like, Michael, no, they're authorized. Like, the van's authorized, the driver is authorized. Matter of fact, everybody who's here is authorized to be here except you. And when he says that line, it like clicks in Michael's brain. And he's like, no. And you see him turn and run towards his car. And somehow he's able to open the trunk without using any car keys. I'm not sure how that happened, but whatever.
He never locked it.
But the trunk wouldn't just open.
Oh, not that good. Yeah.
So anyway, he pops the trunk open. And this is when we see the bomb. And then the camera pans to Oliver Lang, and he just says, boom. And when he says that word, it just explosion, body parts flying, smoke. It's heart-wrenching. Because it's like, bro, he just wanted to try to save his son, and this is what happens. And the worst part about it is, after all this happens, the story now, the narrative becomes, this man, he was married to an FBI agent who was killed 3 years ago. He has always blamed the government for what happened to his wife. He's teaching this American history class that focuses on domestic terrorism.
They interview his students.
Oh my God.
And they're like, yeah, he was really sad about his wife, and he kept talking about terrorism. I don't know.
Yeah, that one kid, he said he took us out to Copper Creek where his wife died. So he's like, he completely broke down, something about his wife or something. I don't know. I was like, come on, bro.
C student.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
He was not paying attention.
That's the kid that only went to college for the keggers.
He said something about his wife.
He wasn't paying attention to that class at all.
How could you not? That class was riveting.
He wasn't riveting.
But then they had
he was hungover.
But then they had the one blonde with a ponytail. And you mentioned the ponytail with Three Ninjas. That the ponytail was like bad news or
the bad guy,
an unsavory character.
Yeah,
you had this blonde
Never
girl
trust the ponytail
with a high ponytail, and she was like, I took his class, and she's like, I'll never forget. Like one of the last things he says to me is, he said, "Sweetheart, one day those men are gonna pay. One day those men are gonna burn." Who believes that? Joel's coughing. You told your student that?
That woman was very clearly a plant. But this is the whole point of Michael's lesson, is like, people just want to be able to sleep at night, man. Mm-hmm. They just want someone to blame so they can say, oh, this was one crazy guy who acted all alone and he completely snapped. And he has all this motive because his wife died and because he started to get paranoid from this class that he was teaching. And also, maybe he tried to kill Whit because he still blamed Whit for his wife's death. Like, the news had the entire story was written for them, and this was all masterminded by this terrorist organization who handpicked him specifically because they knew there would be probable cause.
Yeah. It's brilliant if you think about it. Like, that switcheroo was wild.
The bait and switch is crazy because it's like they're literally driving and they have his son pop out the back seat just so that he could see him. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, yo, we know he's going to follow us. We'll knock him off course. And if obviously that also means Oliver let him win the fist fight.
Yes, that was very intentional.
So that he can get back in his car and follow the actual delivery van. At this point, their van's gone.
Yep. It was great.
And so, which means they also had to time everything to the point where the delivery van was going to show up at the specific time that they were also baiting him down the same block.
But you gotta know, like, if you're delivering to the FBI building, I'm very sure it's on a set schedule. Like, you're not just showing up whenever you feel like it.
That's
so
what I'm
they
saying.
knew, they knew what was going on. They had clocked this. They had people set up all over that city.
Yeah. They had a whole network that was working together. It's so crazy, man. So crazy.
Were there any quotes you wanted to point out?
You ever do anything wrong when you were 16, Michael? Was one that jumped out at me because it was just so funny the way he said it. But there's also the part at the end where, Tim Robbins, you talk about a guy switching course. This is a very different character than the one he plays in Shawshank.
Right.
This is no Andy Dufresne. This is more like Andy Insane. Am I right?
All right.
But he's talking to Michael and threatening him and basically says to him, because of you, my son is alive. I would like very much to return the favor.
Yep.
AKA, piss off or else I'm going to blow your son to bits.
Yeah.
He's terrifying in this movie and just looks like a true creep. And looks like a guy that hasn't slept in a while either, because his eyes always look very bugged out. And he's just...
You can't sleep, though. You're planning to bomb buildings for a living.
Well, here's my thing. Like, this to me, like terrorism bombing and all that, not a huge fan.
No?
not a huge fan. But not only am I not a huge fan, I guess my thing is like, to what end do you think this is actually going to be worthwhile? Because like, all right, I blew up this post office, I blew up this FBI building, I blew up this government office, whatever. Like, these agencies aren't going to cease to exist because you're terrorizing them. You're causing an annoyance at best. At worst, you're killing a bunch of innocent people. And, like, your daddy's farm is not going to get access to their water again. You're not going to actually change the course of how government operates. So it just feels very, like, pointless to me. Like, they're upset with the way that the government operates. And, at the beginning of the movie where he's trying to basically see, like, where Michael stands on all this stuff, and they're having this conversation, and he's like, government has to pay for the things that they've done wrong. And Michael says, you can't ask government to be infallible, but you can ask them to be accountable. Hey, they're going to make mistakes, and I don't think we can expect that the people that we elect are going to just not make mistakes. That's a natural thing. And it seems like Oliver was of the belief that, like, no, we actually should expect them not to make mistakes, and when they do, they should pay. And it's just like, bro, you're never going to get what you're looking for. So I just don't see the end game in, like, blowing up all these government buildings. I just don't really get it.
I mean, I completely agree with you. Because, again, government is not a person. So it's like you said, blowing up multiple buildings is not going to stop the government from running. So,
or not even, it's not even going to stop the government from running the way that it does. They're going, especially when you're pinning it all on a Dean
crazy
Scobie
person
or a Michael Faraday, then it's like, oh, this guy was nuts. He had some grievance. But I think especially if I have this group of people that all feel like the government needs to pay, there's no way they're going to change the way that they operate if they think that the payback is some crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
You would be better off actually showing your cards and saying, like, we are
a group.
Yeah, Al-Qaeda or whatever, where they're saying, like, we are terrorizing because of this specific reason, and we want this as a result. But by not doing that, you're actually never going to get what you want.
So what you're saying is they should have done a video like in True Lies. Is that what you're saying?
Battery Aziz.
That's what I heard.
I don't know why True Lies keeps coming up today.
Because it's a great movie.
Oh, man.
It's a great terrorist film.
But a great terrorist film. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, I don't think, I understand the whole like pinning it on somebody so that we can continue to do it and without getting caught and without ever getting a record. But the other side of that is that you're never actually going to get any justice because it's not like you're creating a list of demands. You're just blowing things up.
Well, talking about the theme.
It's bad terrorism, bro.
Talking about the
terrorize better.
The theme of this movie. I mean, yes, terrorism, but I also think the biggest theme of this film is the fact that the terrorist can be the person next door, basically.
Yeah.
It's the evil and also the fear of domestic terrorism and how it can be the person that you least expect. And I think that this kind of hits harder in today's world because this movie came out prior to 9/11. And so I feel like before 9/11, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in the facts period, it's like a lot of the terroristic acts that we experienced in this country were from Americans. And then 9/11 came around and all of a sudden it shifted. And everybody started, having this idea of like the Middle East being the threat and Al-Qaeda being the threat. And watching this movie back now, it's like, okay, but the threat can actually be coming from inside the house, theoretically, because you have these people that, as Brooke said, takes his daughter to ballet and takes his son camping. And yet he's building bombs in his spare time, which is actually really terrifying to think of.
He's taking his kids to ballet in his spare time.
Oh, yeah. That's
this
true.
is his actual job.
This is his job.
And he's playing suburban dad as a part-time.
And it made me wonder, like, they didn't really address this at all because it's kind of the whole idea of Oliver versus Michael. But, okay, what's Cheryl getting out of this? Like, why does Cheryl buy into this idea? We're not shown in this movie, but I find it interesting that, like, as someone who believes this, you're able to just easily find a partner who's like, yeah.
Well, I don't know if he easily found a partner, but we know that Oliver has had terroristic tendencies for at least the past 25 years. He's also not working alone. He has an entire network of people that are doing this. So presumably she's someone that was a part of the network. Maybe that's how they met in the first place. I don't think it was a situation where he like married her and then convinced her to be a terrorist. She probably was already one, and that's why they got married.
Fair enough.
That was my assumption.
Were there any other themes that came out stuck out to you?
No, I mean, I think everything that you said makes a lot of sense. The way that I kind of phrased it in my notes, the threat from within is bigger than you think. You talked about how this movie's aged. And one of the quotes that jumped out at me was right at the beginning of the movie where we see Michael talking to his American history class. And he says to them, why in this era of national prosperity has the anti-government era been at its peak? Has anti-government been at its peak? And what's that going to mean when the prosperity fades?
Oof.
And I was like, damn, he's spitting right now. Because you also got to think that, like, from the perspective of just like American comfort and economy, we are not in the same prosperous era that we were in the 90s. And there are a lot more people who are upset. Yeah. And so the threat is probably even bigger now than when this movie came out. And I also think this movie kind of reminded me of like Enemy of the State, in the sense that like as you're watching the movie, I think does an effective job of identifying to you that like there are way more threats happening around you than you even realize. And yeah, these people that are like leading your son's Boy Scouts troop might actually be like responsible for American terrorism. It's just the way I think that was the biggest takeaway from this movie is just like, yo, you have no idea how it really gets.
Bleak. All right. Well, I have some more bleakness for the facts.
Oh, wonderful.
Because as I'm watching the movie now as an adult, I am seeing a lot of parallels to real life. I don't know if you caught any of this. So the first thing that stood out to me, although I was wrong about the photo, but there is a scene where Michael is talking to his students about these different acts of terrorism that had happened. And he's showing pictures of buildings that had been bombed. One of the pictures is from the Khobar Towers, which was an actual bombing that happened in Saudi Arabia. And they added that into the actual PowerPoint. The first thing that stood out to me was when they started talking about the bombing that had happened in St. Louis and how it had happened at this government building and it had a nursery involved and all that. That was the bombing in Oklahoma City of Timothy McVeigh. Basically the same thing. And in that bombing, he killed 168 people and injured 680, which is insane. And when I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, this is Oklahoma City bombing. Like, the nursery was there, the kids were there. And although they said it was him, they actually do have a co-conspirator. I had no idea. His name was Terry Nichols. And the reason why I remember Timothy McVeigh was I took a course of American history in high school. And I remember my teacher saying that he ends up becoming, executed by the state. And when he died, you get like your last meal.
Mm-hmm.
And his last meal, he asked for 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And I remember just being so like thrown off by that because it was kind of just like, bro,
this guy definitely did it.
Like this is your last meal, and like
what
you just
creep.
asked for a bunch of ice cream to
2
eat.
pints,
and he just had no remorse whatsoever. Like, they ask you, like, do you have any final words? He said nothing. Like, it's just terrifying to think that you just have like a lack of remorse for the number of lives that he took. So it always freaked me out because it's kind of just like, you just bombed and killed a bunch of people for no reason, as far as I can say. But it turned out his reasoning was actually twofold. So on the one hand, you had the Waco siege that happened in 1993. And that was basically where the government went in and they went to a compound belonging to the Branch Davidians.
Yep.
And that was ruled by David Koresh was their leader. What happened there was they're living on this ranch and they were suspected of stockpiling illegal weapons. So the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms
ATF.
went out there to search on warrants to look for these things. And a local reporter screwed up by basically asking a mailman who happened to be one of the Koresh's brothers for directions and tipped him off. And so they were all ended up being armed. A shootout ensued. And I mean, that was a hot mess. The second instance, which is the reason that Timothy McVeigh gave for why he attacked, was the 1992 Randy Weaver Ruby Ridge incident. And this is actually what they were hinting at when they talked about Michael's wife's death. So in that incident, there were a bunch of survivalists living on a compound. They were paranoid of the government. And Weaver actually had a bench warrant for failing to appear on federal firearms charges after he sold a sawed-off shotgun to an undercover Fed. He ends up missing his hearing date because he was giving the wrong court date. That's why he wasn't there.
That's crazy.
And the cops go to the compound and they end up shooting the dog. They happen upon Weaver's 14-year-old son, like they show in the movie. The son runs to go back and to warn his family. They shoot the kid in the back, killing him.
That's crazy.
And then they end up killing Weaver's wife as well. I mean, it was a complete, it was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And so after McVeigh learned about the Waco siege and the whole Ruby Ridge thing, he was like, yo, the government is wild. They're out here killing people.
Yep.
And that's when he went crazy. But to your point, it's like you're doing all of this, but is this actually going to change things? Maybe the FBI take a step back and say, clearly we made our mistakes. And the way I was taught, they were mistakes. They clearly messed up.
100%. But what I've been taught is that the government in this country has never taken any accountability. So why would they start now? I mean, all they're going to do is say, this guy's a nut job. They're not going to say, man, this is really making us reflect on our actions, and maybe we should do things differently so that we don't have another building blown up. They're just going to be like, let's make sure that we surveil our buildings better to make sure they don't get blown up. That's all they're going to do.
You know what's kind of reminded me of, I didn't actually make a note of this, but just us talking, we're both coughing up a storm in case you guys can't hear it.
Sorry.
We both are like...
I'm getting over some stuff, but it's all right.
It kind of reminded me as you're talking of like the guy, what's that guy's name? Like Luigi, the guy who...
Luigi Mancone?
I don't know his name.
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners are yelling his name out to us right now.
His name's Luigi.
Yeah, Luigi.
Super Luigi.
The guy who shot the
bank guy.
Health. No, it was health. It was health insurance.
Luigi Mangione.
Thank you. So there's some people who say like, yo, this, big pharma, the way they're screwing people over, people can't afford, they're paying all this insurance, they're not getting treatment that they need and all these things. And it's like he went out and killed someone, and like clearly he shouldn't have done that, but is it possibly going to make people second guess how things are done? I don't know. I don't know. But some people just get so fed up with things that they just think this is the only way I can either start a conversation about something is to create huge waves. I think that's kind of like what the terrorists believe is like, we have to do something drastic for people to listen to us. And to think that, the government's screwing up or Big Pharma is screwing up or someone has to pay.
Again, which I get. But like I said, bad terrorism because you haven't even given like a mission statement or a list of demands or, you're leaving some sort of like, this is what we want. Like you're just blowing stuff up and then pinning it on people.
So you needed like a Jerry Maguire type of, you need a manifesto telling people.
Yeah, you got a manifesto. Like, come on, dog. Like, what are we even doing here at this point?
You got a manifesto.
If you don't manifesto, then it's just like, why did this building get blown up? All these people died for no reason. Like, you're not even giving us a reason?
Okay, so just quickly, release of this film was pushed from May of 99 down to July because the Columbine, Colorado shooting happened in April, and they just didn't want to have a movie that was so violent right after the shooting happened, so they pushed it back a couple months. And then I found out that for some reason, Bridges, for every film that he's on, or at least most of them, he basically takes photos using this wide lux camera, and he has these books that he sells where you can actually like look at black and white photos that he takes on the set, which is actually pretty cool. That's so fire. I believe Arlington Road is one of the movies that he has photos of, as well as The Big Lebowski, and they're actually on sale on Amazon if anyone's interested. So I thought that was kind of interesting thing to do to just kind of lighten the end of this this episode because it's a pretty bleak topic. All right, now it's time for the ratings. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I saw this movie a few times growing up and watching it again now. And although like some of the timing seems to be like a little bit too on point for me as far as how the characters always show up right there, I still really enjoyed this movie, and it still gives me the chills every time I watch it. The characters were so well acted. Like Joel mentioned how Robbins was a complete opposite to Andy Dufresne in the same way. I mean, the dude did not abide in this film at all.
Nah.
He was far from calm and collected. He was erratic. He was out of control. He was paranoid. The whole movie is just heightened anxiety, and you just felt it.
All his paranoia is validated.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But it's still like just watching him do this role versus watching him play Big Lebowski is just night and day. 100%. So the acting chops were definitely here. Joan Cusack was very creepy because she was so calm. It was just like you have this very sweet next door, lady neighbor, and she's out here blowing up things, helping her husband blow up things. It's just scary to think about, who can you actually trust? And the ties to the actual real terrorist acts I really enjoyed. The fact that I could catch it as I was watching it was intriguing to me because it's something that actually happened in American history. And I think like just the versatility of all the actors is something that I really enjoyed. Would I watch this movie again? Absolutely. While it's a bummer, it's still the intrigue of it all is just, and the switcheroo at the end, it's very entertaining. This is a strong movie for me. I definitely would recommend, if you're not watching these films after we discuss it, definitely watch this one. This one is definitely worth a watch. For me, this is a 4.5.
4.5.
I love this movie.
That's big.
It is.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I probably hadn't seen this movie since I was a teenager, so I feel like watching it this time, I feel like I picked up on a lot more of the details, especially as I'm like watching it and starting to remember what ends up happening. I'm like, oh, like they were actually like planting the seeds all throughout this movie. And I think just being a little bit more like politically aware than I was at 15, every little aspect of the movie hits home a little bit harder. So I feel like it's aged really well, especially in the day and age that we're living in now. I'm like watching this movie and like, oh, this is crazy. So I would say the replay value is pretty high. I think this is an entertaining movie that's eye-opening, and has you definitely reconsider the way you think about terrorism. So I'm going to give this I'll give it a 4.
Okay, 2 very strong scores, a 4 and a 4.5. Please let us know how you would rate Arlington Road. Excuse me. Feel free to leave us a message. You can send us an email at rewindrewatch1990s@gmail.com or hit us up on social media at RR90spod. You can still leave us a message at 202-688-5195. And don't forget that we do have a Patreon. If you want to support the show for $5 a month, you'll get access to bonus episodes, voting, as well as our exclusive chat. Okay, now it's time for any final words on Arlington Road.
Boom.
Oh, well, short but sweet.
That's it, man.
All right, y'all. I guess we'll catch you next week.
Adios.
Later.